That is the Prime Minister of Great Britain, being chanted at in the street by British citizens, outside a terror attack scene, not by his political opponents, not in Parliament, in the street, in broad daylight, in one of the most diverse cities on the planet. And that chant, Keir Starmer, Jew Harmer, is now echoing around the world. On every news channel, on every front page, in every capital city. But here is the thing that nobody is telling you. The booing, as horrific as it was not even close to the worst thing that happened to Starmer this week. Because while he was being humiliated in the streets of North London, something else was happening. Something that his team tried to bury. Something that could, on its own, be the final nail in his political coffin. I'm going to tell you what that is. But not yet. Because first, you need to understand the full, extraordinary, almost unbelievable story of what happened in Golders Green. And why Starmer's response to it has made everything, so much worse. Stay with me, because this is the most dramatic week in British politics in years. And it is not over yet. Let's start at the beginning. Because the full story of what happened in Golders Green on Wednesday morning is more terrifying than most people realize. At 11:16 in the morning, broad daylight, busy street, a 45-year-old man named Issa Suleiman walked calmly down Highfield Avenue in Golders Green, northwest London. CCTV footage captured what happened next. He spotted a 76-year-old man wearing a kippah, a Jewish skullcap, waiting at a bus stop. He walked toward him, and then he lunged, grabbing the elderly man with one hand, stabbing him repeatedly with a knife. The victim was 76 years old, standing at a bus stop, doing nothing. He was targeted for one reason and one reason only, because he looked Jewish. 10 minutes later, Suleiman struck again. A 34-year-old man, Shloim Rand, was stabbed nearby. Witnesses said Suleiman appeared to be hunting, their word, for anyone who looked visibly Jewish. But here is the detail that should make every single person watching this video absolutely furious. Issa Suleiman was known to the authorities. He had been referred to prevent the government's counter-terrorism program in 2020. That referral was closed the same year. He had a history of serious violence. In 2008, he stabbed a police officer and a police dog in Swindon and was jailed for 9 years. He was a known violent offender, a known extremist risk, and he was walking free on the streets of London. And he had left a psychiatric hospital just days before the attack. Days before the attack. But here is what I haven't told you yet. There is a question about what happened to his Prevent case in 2020 that nobody in government has been able to answer. And the answer, when it comes, is going to be devastating. I'll get to that. But first, you need to see what happened when Starmer showed up. The attack happened on Wednesday. Starmer visited on Thursday. 24 hours later. Now, the Prime Minister has security considerations. There are operational reasons why visits are sometimes delayed. I understand that. But here is what an anti-Semitism campaigner said about that delay on GB News, and I want you to hear this directly. He said, "The only thing that was swift and agile was his exit from Golders Green after waiting over 24 hours to visit." Swift and agile. The same words Starmer himself used about the government's response. Being thrown back at him by a Labour supporter on live television. But nothing prepared anyone for what happened when the Prime Minister's motorcade arrived. The streets of Golders Green were lined with protesters. British citizens. Many of them Jewish. Many of them from the community that had just been attacked. And as Starmer's cars sped past, and I want you to notice that word, sped, the chants began. Keir Starmer, Jew Harmer. Traitor. Shame on you. Protect our children. These were not far-right agitators. These were members of the Jewish community that Starmer had come to show solidarity with. The very people he was supposedly there to support. And they were screaming traitor at him as his car drove past at speed. David Baddiel, one of Britain's most famous Jewish voices, said this week, There's not much future for Jewish people here in the UK. I've been planning to leave for a year. A famous British Jew. Planning to leave Britain. Because he does not feel safe. And the victim, Shloim Rand, spoke from his hospital bed. He said, "Definitely not enough has been done." He said Jews are not safe on London streets. From his hospital bed, where he was recovering from being stabbed, while hunting for a visibly Jewish person to attack. But wait, because here is where the story takes a turn that I promise you did not see coming. And it goes right to the heart of why Starmer's response to all of this has been so catastrophically wrong. Let's talk about Prevent. Because this is the part of the story that is being buried, and it should not be. Prevent is the government's flagship counter-terrorism program. Its entire purpose is to identify people who might be radicalized and intervene before they commit an attack. It is supposed to be the safety net, the early warning system, the program that stops the next attack before it happens. Essa Suleiman was referred to Prevent in 2020. His case was closed the same year. Why? Nobody has explained that. Why does a man with a 9-year prison sentence for stabbing a police officer, a man with known violent tendencies, get referred to Prevent and then have his case closed in the same year? Who made that decision? Who signed off on it? What criteria did they use? These questions have not been answered. And they will not be answered quickly. Because the government does not want to answer them. But it gets worse. Because Suleiman had been in a psychiatric hospital. And he left that hospital just days before the attack. Days. Which means at some point, someone decided he was safe to release. Someone signed that paperwork. Someone made that call. And 4 days after he walked out of that hospital, 2 Jewish men were stabbed on a London street. Here is what I want you to hold in your mind. This was not a random act of violence by someone who appeared from nowhere. This was a man with a documented history of violent extremism, a known Prevent referral, a 9-year prison sentence, and a recent discharge from a psychiatric hospital. And the system that was supposed to catch him didn't. Now, Starmer stood at a podium in Downing Street and gave a speech about this. And what he said, and what he didn't say, is one of the most revealing moments of his entire premiership. Stay with me, because the speech is coming. And it is extraordinary. That evening, Thursday night, Starmer stood at a podium outside Number 10 and addressed the nation. And some of what he said was genuinely strong. I want to be fair about that. He said, "Anti-Semitism is an old hatred. History shows that the roots are deep. And if you turn away, it grows back." He said, "If you stand alongside people who say globalize the Intifada, you are calling for terrorism against Jews. And people who use that phrase should be prosecuted." Strong words. Words that a lot of people, including me, believe needed to be said. But here is what he did not say. He did not explain why Essa Suleiman was walking free. He did not explain why the Prevent referral was closed. He did not explain why a man with a 9-year sentence for stabbing a police officer was discharged from psychiatric care days before a terror attack. He did not mention the arson attacks on Jewish ambulances in Golders Green just weeks earlier. He did not announce a review of the Prevent program. He did not give a single concrete policy that would make the 76-year-old man at that bus stop any safer tomorrow than he was on Wednesday. And, crucially, he is now being accused of something that I think deserves a serious response. He is being accused of weaponizing the attack, of using the grief of the Jewish community to go after pro-Palestine protesters, of connecting an attack by a Somali-born man with a history of mental illness and violence to political marches, when there is absolutely no evidence that the two things are related. Now, I am not saying that accusation is right. I think the speech had genuine merit. I think the words about the Intifada chant needed to be said. But here is the political reality. By going after the protests, by making that the centerpiece of his response, Starmer has handed his critics on the left exactly what they wanted. He has created a story that is not about Jewish safety. It is about free speech, and about whether a prime minister is using a terror attack to win votes 4 days before a local election. That is the trap Starmer walked into. And he walked in with his eyes open. But none of that, none of it, is the thing that is going to haunt him most. Because while all of this was happening, something else broke. Something that has been building for weeks. And it finally arrived. And it is coming up right now. While Starmer was being booed in Golders Green. While he was preparing his Downing Street speech. While his team was managing the terror attack response. The European Union quietly announced something that Downing Street will have been absolutely dreading. The EU has opened a formal investigation into Peter Mandelson. Yes, that Peter Mandelson. The man at the center of the biggest scandal of Starmer's premiership. The man whose vetting was covered up. The man who was appointed despite 2 red boxes from the security agency. The man who Starmer sacked. The man whose name has not left the front pages for 6 weeks. That man is now being investigated by the European Union. Why? Because Mandelson, while serving as Starmer's ambassador to Washington, was also a senior figure at Global Counsel, his lobbying firm. And Global Counsel had clients with significant interests in EU policy and EU contracts. The EU's ethics watchdog has opened an inquiry into whether Mandelson used his position as a senior European Union figure during his previous role as EU Trade Commissioner to benefit clients of his private lobbying business. This is an international investigation into the man that Starmer chose, the man that Starmer defended, the man that Starmer said was subject to full due process. And it landed, this week, while Starmer was already drowning. One Labour MP said privately this week, "It just never stops. Every single day there is something new. It's like a horror film where you think the monster is dead, and then it gets back up." Like a horror film. From one of his own MPs. About their own government. But here is the most important question. The one that everything in this video has been building toward. And I'm going to answer it right now. 4 days. That is all that stands between now and the moment that could define, or end, Keir Starmer's premiership. May the 7th. The local elections. Lord Hayward, Britain's most respected election forecaster, is predicting Labour loses 75% of the seats it is defending. 1,850 councillors. Gone. In one night. In Wales, 26 years of Labour dominance ending. In London, the Greens surging in seats Labour has held for decades. In the Midlands, the North, the South, Reform UK picking up seat after seat after seat. And all of that, was the prediction before this week. Before the booing. Before the EU investigation. Before the terror alert level was raised to severe. Before the victim said Jews are not safe in London. Before David Baddiel said he is planning to leave the country. This week has been the worst week of Starmer's premiership. Worse than the Mandelson appointment. Worse than the vetting scandal. Worse than the 3-line whip. Worse than being told to resign twice at PMQs. This week, a Prime Minister was booed outside a terror attack scene by the community he came to support. This week, an international investigation was opened into his disgraced former ambassador. This week, the terrorism threat level was raised to severe. And this week, 4 days before the most important local elections of his career, Starmer is more unpopular than at any point since he took office. Kim McGuinness, Labour's own elected mayor of the North East, said this week, he has got to take it as a wake-up call. The turnaround has to happen. A wake-up call. From one of his own mayors. 4 days before the election. And here is the brutal truth that every Labour insider knows, the truth that one of them described to journalists this week in words I will never forget. This is the last gasp of a dying man. He is going to be dragged out of number 10 with his fingernails clinging to the wallpaper. His own people. Saying that. This week. Here is my honest view. And I'm going to be straight with you, because that is what this channel is about. The Golders Green attack was a tragedy. 2 Jewish men were stabbed on a London street in broad daylight because they looked Jewish. That is not political. That is not a story about Starmer. That is a story about a country where Jewish people do not feel safe. And that should horrify every single one of us, regardless of politics. But Starmer is the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister is responsible for the safety of every British citizen. And when a man with a 9-year sentence for stabbing a police officer, a man flagged by Prevent, a man who just left a psychiatric hospital, can walk to a bus stop in North London and hunt Jewish people with a knife, the Prime Minister has to answer for that. Not because it is convenient. Not because it fits a political narrative. But because that is what the job requires. Starmer gave a speech. It had strong words. But words are not policy. And policy is what keeps people safe. 4 days from now, the British public will deliver their verdict. Not on the terror attack. On the government. On the leadership. On whether the man who has been in office for less than 2 years has earned the right to continue. The walls are closing in. The scandals keep coming. And for the first time, even people inside his own party are no longer pretending otherwise. I want to hear from you. Do you think Starmer can survive past May the 7th? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe now. Because election night, 4 days from now, is going to be one of the most dramatic nights in British politics in years. And you do not want to miss it.